BBBsGive.org recently released a new survey. We call it the Donor Trust Report. It's an in-depth look into the state of trust in the charitable sector. We're excited to release this report because inside of it is information that gives us all a better understanding of how donors see the charity sector. I'm joined today by Dirk Sellers, Vice President for Philanthropy, National Wildlife Federation, to explore some of his reactions to our findings. National Wildlife Federation is one of the best recognized organizations in the country. But please share with us something about the organization that maybe donors don't know.
I think that has a lot to do with the way the National Wildlife Federation is organized. We're 7 million members strong. We work in all 50 states with wildlife recovery programs. But I think the aha moment comes when folks realize that we're also the home of Ranger Rick, America's beloved conservation icon.
Does National Wildlife Federation think of public trust as an asset?
Absolutely. We spend a lot of our time and energy on trying to lift the hood about how we operate and bring transparency and accountability to all of our programs. I think our donors are deserving of that. It helps build trust. It helps them have assurance that their philanthropic dollars are being put to good use, and it really goes to speak to the investment worthiness of the National Wildlife Federation.
In the report, we delve into the state of trust for different types of charities. We also looked at how trust varies across age and race groups. We found that perceived trust for environmental organizations varies meaningfully across racial and generational groups. For instance, we noticed that only 9% of maturers say they highly trust environmental groups, while 24% of millennials say they highly trust environmental organizations. Has National Wildlife Federation worked to build trust and engagement with younger constituents in particular?
Part of the programming at National Wildlife Federation is geared toward instilling that conservation ethic and really growing up the next generation of conservationists. It starts for us at a very young age. A lot of kids are experiencing Ranger Rick-led programming from the time they're toddlers, from our Eco Schools program to our schoolyard habitat programs, on up to the campus ecology programs, where we're actually engaging college and university students. I think that goes a long way toward helping build up a diverse conservation army that's reflective of all of the generations, essentially. Some of the folks like me have been around National Wildlife Federation from a very early age. Ranger Rick magazine was probably the first publication that I picked up as a little guy, and here I sit today some time later as its Chief Development Officer.
I want to ask you about some of your recent successes, or maybe even some of the lessons that you've learned along the way.
Kids like me, who've been part of the National Wildlife Federation for all these years, really were influenced by Ranger Rick back in the day. And I think that it's created some longevity in terms of our donor ranks and our base of support that a lot of other partner organizations just haven't brought to the table. I think some of the successes or lessons learned for us have really had to do with expanding the way we talk about our work and expanding the channels in which we're engaged and how we go about reaching our various audiences. It's not lost on me that as many of our baby boomer generation folks are on their iPads today and on their PDA devices as millennials and other generations.
Our report found that the charitable sector is the most trusted sector in the country. On the flip side, there is space to build more trust. For example, while the majority of respondents, 73%, say it's very important to trust a charity before giving, only a small portion of respondents, 19%, say they highly trust charities, and even a smaller portion, 10%, are optimistic about the sector becoming more trustworthy over time. What is your reaction to this public perception?
Well, I'd agree that nonprofit organizations have got a lot more work to do to continually build trust. I think of trust as something that's dynamic, something that's earned. We work to give voice to all of our programming and to provide accountability and transparency into all of our programming. I think these days donors have better access to information more so than they ever have before to be able to evaluate the efficacy of a charity's work, or really the investment worthiness of their charitable dollars. And it's more important, I think, than in past generations that nonprofits are really working with their donors to help them understand the impact of their generosity.
The Donor Trust Report also explores changing attitudes about generosity and giving. Can you tell us a little bit about how National Wildlife Federation is adapting to change?
For as much as I've seen change, some of the fundamentals are still the same. People give to people, they give because they're asked, they give because they want to be part of something. And I think it really requires all of us to think about that and to be mindful of the fact that we're in a relationship business. You know, we've got to continually demonstrate the investment worthiness of everything that we do. We've got to continue to give voice to the impact of a donor's generosity on what it is that we're all about at the end of the day. We've got to continually ask people at the right moments for their help.
Dirk, I want to thank you for sharing your reactions to this report.
Thank you, Art. It's been a pleasure to be here.
To learn more about the Give.org Donor Trust Report, please visit give.org.